Okay, we left off in verse 6. We are going to pick up where we left off. Read verse 6 from the top again, okay, brother?
Daniel chapter 7 and verse 6. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard.
In other words, we was talking about the Greek Empire. The leopard in the vision of Daniel is the same, or exactly the same entity symbolically as the belly and thigh of brass of the vision of Nebuchadnezzar in chapter 2. It's talking about the Greek Empire. Go ahead.
After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl.
Exactly. Now, when it said the 4 wings of a fowl, literally, at the matter of fact, let's go read that real quick. Go to First Maccabees. It's talking about the generals. You had actually, I'm going to give you the historical account. You had 5 generals. You had Ptolemy, you had Lysimachus, you had Cassander, you had Seleucus, and you had Antigonus. And after Alexander died, you had a few of the generals got together and took Antigonus out. That event, I guess that circumstance in history was termed the Diadochi, which meant, it was a struggle. It depicts, it was the name of the years of battle and struggle that ensued upon Alexander the Great. After his death, the 5 generals started fighting, and it boiled down to 4, which was Lysimachus. Matter of fact, let's go to the map over here. This is Alexander, but we're going to have to go to the next map, brother. Right here. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going back. You're right. Is it? Hold on. Let me see something. This is it right here. Okay. We got a good angle on the map? All right. So you can see here the Ptolemaic Empire. This is years down the line. The Ptolemaic Empire, that was the descendants of the Ptolemies, who was the first general that reigned down there. Then when it says the Seleucid Empire, these were the guys that literally were the succession of the general of Alexander, whose name was Seleucus. Then you had Antigonus, a guy named Antigonus had ruled in this area, Bithynia and Pontus, but the generals Seleucus, Lysimachus got together and they took Antigonus out. Lysimachus ended up with Thrace and Bithynia, this area here. And Cassander, who was also involved in the Diadochi, the battle, the struggle that ensued upon Alexander's death, got Macedon, Greek, and the area that was considered the Hellespont. So between those 4 generals, and we'll name them again, Ptolemy took Egypt, the Seleucids took we'll put it like this, they took the east, Babylon. He settled and his capital became Syria. So throughout the scriptures, you'll hear them referred to as the Syrians. In history, actually, the scriptures in Daniel 11, which we'll get to, he's referred to as the king of the north. The Ptolemies are referred to as the king of the south. Then you had Lysimachus, who had Thrace and Bithynia, number 3. Then number 4, you had Cassander, who had Macedonia and Greece. And that was the 4 wings. Like the scripture said, the leopard also had 4 wings. Go ahead.
Verse 6. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads.
The wings are the regions that Alexander's kingdom was parted into. Now let's read that real quick. We're going to take a brief, go to First Maccabees, chapter 1, and start at verse 1 actually. First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 1.
Okay. First Maccabees in the Apocrypha, chapter 1 and verse 1.
Go ahead.
And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian.
Now this is the biblical historical account in the book of First Maccabees that had been recorded after the prophecy during the time of Daniel, hundreds of years earlier, had been prophesied. So it was prophesied in the book of Daniel, and it wasn't too many centuries that passed before the prophecy had unfolded. Go ahead.
And it happened after Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chetan, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece.
In other words, Alexander took down, in Daniel chapter 7, that Persian empire was that bear that had two sides, where one side was high, and it had three ribs in the mouth, which was Lydia, the Lydians, Babylon, the Babylonians, and Egypt, the Egyptians, that it had to take to become the preeminent. Then Alexander in turn took down the Persian Empire. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth.
Talking about all the deeds of Alexander. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations.
When it says the ends of the earth, it's talking about as far east as Persia. Go ahead.
Insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. Verse 4. And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries.
Talking about Alexander the Greek. Go ahead.
And nations and kings who became tributaries unto him.
Go ahead.
And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die.
Go ahead.
Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable.
When it said honorable among him, it's not saying that the Greeks were honorable people. It's saying that these were his most. And let me say this: when you go and you read the history of Alexander, these generals came up with him from childhood. Go ahead.
Verse 6. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth.
In other words, from his childhood. Go ahead.
And parted his kingdom among them.
Now that's when it said that they had four what? In Daniel chapter 7, it said this beast had it had four wings of a fowl. The wings are symbolic of the regions that the kingdom was parted into upon the elimination of one of those generals, the fifth general, whose name was Antigonus. He was eliminated, and it stayed so that you had Thrace and Bithynia, which was one realm. You had Greece and Macedon, which was another realm. Then you had the east, Babylon, Syria, Israel. It began to be known as Seoul, Syria. Portions of Persia. It was known as, that was the third realm. And then you had Egypt, which was the fourth realm, or the fourth five. Go ahead.
While he was yet alive.
Okay, read that whole verse again, verse 6.
Verse 6. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them, while he was yet alive.
Go ahead.
Verse 7.
In other words, the kingdom being parted, those were the four wings of a fowl. Continue. You're going to be all the way down to verse 9.
Verse 7. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died.
Go ahead.
And his servants bare rule everyone in his place.
So that's the whole point. Lysimachus took Thrace and Bithynia. Cassadon took Greece and Macedonia. Then you had Seleucus that took Syria and the east. And then you had Ptolemy that took Egypt. That's the four realms and the four heads, the four wings of the fowl and the four heads, upon eliminating Antigonus. Go ahead.
Verse 9. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves, so did their sons after them many years.
And that's why when you go to the map over here, you can pan in, it says the yellow, the Seleucid Empire. That was just the succession of the seed, or the successor